Good afternoon, dear colleagues. We will start in a few minutes. Let me know if everything okay with the sound.
Yes, everything is fine. We can hear you. Thank you.
Thank you. So 1 minute and we will start. So let's start. Good afternoon again. My name is Viktoriia Tesliuchenko. I'm float physician. Today we will talk about the home first aid kit. What do we need? At first, let me inform you that it is a general information, kind of general recommendations, how to create your individual first aid kit, because it can differ from your individuality, your individual medical history. So it is only an algorithm how to create it. We will talk about the common recommendation, general and specific medications. I will provide a list of the most useful medications which you can need. Taking care of elderly people at home. If you have somebody, parents or grandparents who you are caring of, it will be useful to think about some additional items in your home kit. Of course, home kit is differ when you have a child. So some issues about having a baby and having medications at home, and how to create a home kit. A few steps which you can use to get the most useful stuff in your medical kit. So, common recommendation. Let's start. At first, I would like to recommend you to create a list of medications with your family doctor or with general physician in private clinic. You can ask a doctor for additional consultation to get this list the most in the better way for you. The next point is to review home kit at least once in 3 months. Of course, you can check everything not every 3 months. It can be once a month or once a half of a year, but you need to be sure that all medications are okay with their expiry date. The next one is to add more medications and other items during traveling. Of course, during traveling, we are experiencing new countries, new emotions, and some new experience, of course. So you might need more medications that you need in usual life due to additional risk factors during traveling. The next one is to choose a suitable storage for home kit. It is very important question to create this place to be safe especially when you have children or pets, to get the suitable and requirement conditions for the storage of medications and to stay safe. So the next point is to control the storage requirements for medicine. Some medications is required to be stored in a fridge, so you need to think about it if you are keeping these medications at home. The next recommendation is to keep minimum of amount but maximum of necessary medications. The main word here is necessary. So you can create your list, your individual list of medications, and to buy not in a huge amount, kind of 3 bottles of syrup. Just try from the minimum to react for the first symptoms, for the first disease condition, and after some day or hour you can go to the pharmacy to buy more medication that you need for this condition. So general items. It is general recommendations for adapted for Ukrainian reality. Adapted by me actually, because some items in the recommendations for America or United Kingdoms is not so general for Ukrainian use. So the first one is bandages and wound care. It is important to get to have at home bandages. It can be an elastic bandages or adhesive bandages to help somebody during some traumatic issues. So it is very important to immobilize or to stop bleeding if it is not severe, or to immobilize, for example, extremity immediately after the trauma episode. So it will be very useful to have these bandages. The next one is lotions, ointments, and gels. I think it is the biggest group of medications because we use it in our regular life, and they are very common in their medical use. So it can be a sunburn relief ointment if it is summer or you are travel to the sea or somewhere. You can get sunburns. So this ointment is very useful stuff. Burn relief gel for the traumatic issues. Antibiotic ointment and antiseptic wipes or spray. Antiseptic wipes or spray, it is very necessary medication. About antibiotic ointment, it is not very usual for keeping in a first aid kit at home. But if you have experienced some medical conditions, your medical doctor can advise to keep this antibiotic ointment at home. And the same information I can say about the hydrocortisone ointment. It is a steroid anti-inflammatory drug for topical use. It is also should be discussed with your physician. And the next item is very important. It is topical non-steroid anti-inflammatory drug. I think you have heard about them. For example, it can be diclofenac. There is these ointments or gels you can use to help with some traumatic issues or to relieve some topical pain. So this is very useful, especially when you have at home elderly people. OTC medications, so over-the-counter medications. So you don't need to get a prescription from physician to buy these medications in a pharmacy. The first one is pain reliever. It is very important to have pain reliever. You can experience some stomach ache or toothache or fever, including fever reducers, the next one. So you can choose that one of pain reliever, which is the best for you. And of course, you need to discuss the dose with your doctor. And cold medicine, of course, it is important to have some common issues. For example, it is nasal spray and fever reducers, and we will talk about it a little bit later. About the antacids and antidiarrheal medications, antacids are important to have if you have experienced some symptoms, and it is not so important for everybody to have antacids at home. But when we talk about the antidiarrheal drugs, it is important to have a minimum amount of the medications to react as quickly as you can for some diarrhea episodes. And after you get the first dose, you can go to the pharmacy and to buy the other needed doses for you. Antihistamines, it is very important group of medications, but due to your medical anamnesis, your medical history, if you have experienced allergy as a usual thing for you, I think you have these medications. But if you are not, it could be not the medication for your must-have list. And nausea medication, it is also additional medication. We will talk about this later when you really need these medications at home. Eye care, this point is with the 0 because for eye care, you can use, of course, drops for the eyes, but you actually need to visit a doctor to differ your condition, to get the diagnosis, to choose the right eye drops, because they are different, and sometimes you need antibiotic, sometimes you need combination of antibiotic and hormone. So usually they are not so cheap, they are expensive, they could be expensive, so it is not very important to have this eye care. But if you have experienced some eye episodes as a regular condition, you can ask your ophthalmologist which drop or ointment you can buy to help yourself in the first hours of the symptoms. So other tools, it is not so important, but very, very useful stuff for home kit. Hand sanitizing gel, it is very actual item for the pandemic and for a regular use. Sterile saline solution. It is a very useful item. So you can start with the sterile saline solution to relieve such symptoms and some symptoms with your eyes, you can use at first the sterile saline solution. You can use it as an isotonic spray for your nasal cavity. You can actually use it for all your needs, but you should be you should know that this saline solution is sterile when it is closed and when it was opened. And so you should understand that it will be non-sterile, and you can get an additional infection from this solution if you store this solution for some time. Cotton balls and swabs, I think we have at home these items for regular use. Medical gloves. It is not so important to have a sterile medical gloves at home because I think the surgeon procedures you will not perform at home. But medical gloves to wear, you will need to help somebody with the wound care and to do not contact with the blood and the other biological liquids. So it is important to have your size of medical gloves to be safe during the healthcare procedures. Of course, thermometer, we will talk about it later. Syringe, bulb syringe, it is useful to have a syringe to get some medications from their packs, and it is useful to have a needle from this syringe. So tweezers can be very useful. Needle or separated or in a syringe. Scissors. Sometimes when you need these scissors to help somebody, it is very important to have this item in your first aid kit and to open the packing of the medications. So it is very useful and important to have scissors, even little, in your first aid kit. Actually, very important information, which is not so popular in Ukraine, to have in your home first aid kit a contact information and notification with allergies. Sometimes, especially when you are living alone or you're not all family members can remember your medical history. So it is remembered to have, it is important to have the contact information and notifications not only with allergies, with your chronic conditions, with your some important medical history, history issues. There is just for information, self-reported reasons for not adherence to recommended medication regimens. So the most common, as you see, is that people forgot, people run out, if they are away from home, trying to save money, had side effects, was too busy, prescription wasn't working, didn't think prescription was needed, and didn't like taking it. Of course, the reason of side effects, it is a very important reason, but the other one are related with discommunication between family doctor and patient. So do not hesitate to consult with your doctor, with your family doctor, or with general physician about all the issues which you are experienced during you get some medications. So specific medications and tools. Imagine that you are adult with one chronic disease. So you will need some prescriptions medicines, for example. So of course you need to go to the doctor to get these prescriptions, to buy the medicines in the pharmacy. And some medications can be without prescription. So chronic diseases treatment, if you have diabetes mellitus, for example, type 2, you will need your regular drugs for use in at home, and actually to see when your doses are become low or become high. And to check your expiry date of the treatment. So to have these medicines at home. If you have some chronic disease and you can experience some exacerbation of this disease. And a good example is asthma. If you have some acute condition, you need to have at home the inhalers, which can relieve this insufficiency of your lungs, to help yourself as soon as possible, to before you can call your doctor or to call on an ambulance. So useful tools. You shouldn't buy all these medical medical equipment to have at home, but I was trying to create a list of the most useful medical equipment at home. So of course it is thermometer, pulse oximeter, as you know, during the pandemic, before the COVID-19 pandemic started. Actually, the word pulse oximeter was very unknown for the people, but for now, you do not need to go to the pharmacy and to buy this pulse oximeter and to wait for some COVID-19 pneumonia. But if you have at home somebody with chronic lung diseases, for example, it can be chronic obstructive lung disease, it is better to have pulse oximeter to control the saturation and to see the dynamic of this condition. So nebulizer. I think most of you have sometimes heard about the nebulizer. It is very discussable medical equipment at home. For now, there are many recommendations about the harmful influence of the nebulizer inhalation at home. So you should discuss with your family doctor or with the pediatrician if you will need this nebulizer to relieve some conditions. Glucometer, of course, it is important to have a glucometer for the people with diabetes. Tonometer, it is very important for hypertension disease. Health watch, it is a useful item for everybody. We have now a big variety of this health watch. You can control your pulse, even your heart rhythm. So you can choose this health watch which you like, which you need, to control your vital signs. Pregnancy tests, if you are a childbirth potential woman, it is very useful to have at least one pregnancy test to exclude the reason of some symptoms, to exclude the pregnancy before starting with some medications, and containers for specimen collection. We will talk about it in a context with the child home kit. I will talk about it a little bit later. And emergency contact list, medical documentation. It is very regular issue, so that when ambulance come to the patient's home, it can last 10 or 15 minutes to find all the medical records that patient have, and this time is very important, and the doctor should need to see all this medical information about you. So it is important to have one place where all your medical documentation is located. And the emergency contact list, as I said, especially when you are living alone. So taking care of elderly people at home. The first item is regular, of course, prescription medicines for chronic diseases and conditions. Elastic bandages. It is very common to get some trauma even at home, to get some pain for elderly people. So you can always immobilize the extremity or some part of the body with the elastic bandages before you can visit the doctor to exclude some serious reason of the pain. Exacerbation of chronic diseases, symptomatic medicines. Most of people have their regular medication prescriptions, and especially for exacerbation condition. For example, it is regular antiarrhythmics for people who have experienced some arrhythmias. The doctor know which type of this arrhythmia can occur, and can prescribe these medications for the first help to stop this arrhythmia, to have an opportunity for patient to stop this arrhythmia at home, and to visit his doctor during the planned scheduled visit, and not to call for an ambulance or to be hospitalized. Ointments and gels. As I said, it is very important to have a non-steroid anti-inflammatory topical gels to relieve some topical pain. It is very actual issue for the elderly people. And some additional OTC medications. As you remember, it is medications which you don't need to have a prescription from a physician. So for elderly people, I will recommend to have some anti-diarrhea medication or mild laxatives. If your relative have some issues with the stool, you need to have these medications to help from the first symptoms. Aspirin, it is important to have aspirin for the cardiac conditions, for the cardiac attacks, to give this aspirin for people, for relative who experience a heart pain. It is only the one medication that you can give without a physician during this condition. So nausea medications. It is actually more important for people with some severe chronic diseases, for termination conditions, Of course, it is symptomatic treatment and supplements. Of course, elderly people have their nutrients not in the very regular and normal supplies, so you can choose with your doctor the best supplements for your parents or grandparents to prolong their health, to relieve their pain, to help them to save their health. And useful tools, of course. We talked about them. Pulse oximeter and glucometer and tonometer are the most important items to control the vital signs of the patient and to see how quickly you should react for some conditions and if it is necessary to be hospitalized. So, home kit for children. It is very complicated question, I think, because children are very active and they have some different medical conditions more frequent than adults. So I will try to explain for you the main items to help you to think about your situation, your condition, and which of these points you can add for your home kit. So we will start with the acute respiratory infection. Of course, it is nasal drops. Isotonic, you can use actually sterile saline solution as isotonic. Spray, hypertonic spray. It is very necessary when you have a big edema in the nasal cavity. It helps to relieve this edema. Decongestants, this sprays with, for example, oxymetazoline. And topical steroid drops should be prescribed only by physician in case your children will need it. The next very important issue is to have a humidifier at home if you have a children. The most conditions related with some inflammatory process in the upper tract can be relieved by the cold, by the conditions in your flat, in your room. So humidifier and the temperature in the room can relieve the cough, can help to relieve an edema in the nose of your children. So it is very important to have this humidifier, to service this humidifier, so to check that it is clean and it have appropriate work. So fever, it is maybe the most common acute process that parents have to react. So it is very useful to have infrared thermometer if you have a children, especially if it is baby. So it can help to measure the temperature more frequent, to control the effectiveness of the fever relievers, to control the temperature and to catch this moment when you need to add some medication for your baby. Fever relievers. So it is important to have in the appropriate dose and appropriate form of administration. So I mean that for children you need to buy a syrup of acetaminophen or ibuprofen to get the necessary dose to make these fever relievers the most effective that they could be. Urine test strips. We will talk. These urine test strips are not only in fever topic, so we will talk about them. And containers for specimen collection. There are some. It is important to find the reason of the fever, and if your child could not talk or don't understand the location of the inflammatory process, so you need to find this inflammatory location, and sometimes you need to get some urine tests, and for little babies it is hard to collect the urine, and it is exist urine bag for babies. You can Google their pack. It is kind of adapted for the anatomy of boys and girls container to help you to get the urine. Rapid strep test. It is a streptococcus test if your child experiences strong pain in sore throat and has high-grade fever. You can perform this rapid streptococcus test at home. It has an instruction, so it is very simple to perform the test at home to understand if it is Streptococcus tonsillitis, and you need to get as soon as possible the prescriptions for antibiotics to relieve this condition. Conjunctivitis. It is a more common condition for children due to their activity. So you can, if your child experiences these conditions very often, you can consult with your physician and to have at home eye drops. But it is very important to buy these drops and to keep them closed. The bottle should be closed, so you can check this expiry date for the drops. But if you have opened these eye drops, you need to read in the instruction of this medication how long and where you should storage this drop. Because it is very common that eye drops should be stored in a fridge about 14 days only in the opened condition, or a month. So it is very important. Do not forget about it. Otitis. Of course, otitis, it is very, very common condition for children. To help your children, it is acute pain. It is a very painful condition, and the child can really suffer from this pain. So you can relieve. Of course, you need some time to get to the hospital or to the physician, and to help your children for this time, you can use an oral non-steroid anti-inflammatory drug. For example, it can be ibuprofen. And actually, during otitis, child can experience the fever, so it can be very important drug. So nasal drops you will need for otitis too, due to anatomy of the nasal cavity. And the ear drops, we have some ear drops with topical anesthetics, for example, with lidocaine, but you need to be sure that your child do not have an allergy for this drug. So acute diarrhea. Acute gastroenteritis could be viral or bacterial, and of course it is when it has become to more severe, the child should be hospitalized. But to help your children before, when the symptoms only start, to help the body to kill the infection by the immune system. At first, you need to start with the oral electrolyte solution. It is must-have thing for the home kit for children. You can buy only one pack of this electrolyte solution. For example, it could be Rigidron or Humana Electrolyte or any other, to give this oral solution for your children if the diarrhea is very strong, to help organism not to be dehydrated. So sorbents, it is, or enterosorbents, it is group of medications which is very safe to give for the children. It can help to stop the spreading of the infection, to relieve the toxins from the intestines. So you can, I think that it is very good to have the sorbents at home, and for adults actually too. And let's talk about urine test strips. This is a bottle with the test strips, which you can put in the urine of the child, and to see some measurement of the, to see some kind of express urine test result. It is screening for parents to see if it is time to go to hospital, and you cannot do anything at home. Vomiting. I promised to talk more about antiemetic drugs. So if you have children, it is important to have antiemetic drug. And I'm talking about the parenteral form of administration. Because if vomiting is severe, you couldn't use these drugs by oral way. So it is parenteral form of administration. So you need to have a syringe for this. And the most common drug for vomiting, it is ondansetron, as you see. You can have only one ampoule of this drug, but you always can call your doctor. If vomiting is severe, you can call your doctor, and to help your child with to stop this vomiting, to start with the oral rehydration, and to stop the dehydration, which can cause severe complications. And of course, vomiting, diarrhea, and fever, it is dehydration conditions. So for dehydration conditions, it is useful to have urine test strips. Allergy and severe allergy. In Ukraine, we have, and not only in Ukraine, It is exist EpiPen for it is epinephrine. It is the first aid for somebody who experiences an anaphylactic shock, and we know that the time ambulance to get to you can last from 10 minutes till so it is important to help the children or adult in a few minutes after the anaphylactic shock reaction was developed. So EpiPen can be the very fast and help and very, very useful. So it is if your relatives sometimes have experienced the anaphylactic reaction, especially during traveling, or especially when you know that the reason for anaphylactic shock is very common, kind of bite of the bee. So it is very, very important to have this EpiPen in your bag or at home. Corticosteroids, they are for children. Rectal form is very common to use, and parenteral form of administration. These drugs are with 0.2 because you should discuss the dose for your children, because it is correlated with the weight of the children and other conditions. So you should discuss if you want to keep these medications at home. And antihistamines, it is you can buy there in the pharmacy without the prescriptions, and from this point, allergy is the most common drug, and of course sometimes children can experience the allergy. It is food allergy or some bite allergy. So antihistamines, topical and for oral use, can relieve the conditions with itching with the allergy symptoms. Strong cough. It is very complicated questions because cough could differ from dry to cough with sputum, from asthma to bronchitis, or acute laryngotracheitis. So, of course, you can relieve the dry cough with humidifier in the appropriate temperature condition in the room, and you can discuss with your physician about the nebulizers for inhaled steroids or bronchodilators. If your child is experienced some acute laryngotracheitis or obstructive bronchitis, and when it is very usual thing for you, it is very important to help your child to relieve this respiratory insufficiency when it is developed. So we have finished with the home kit for children, and useful items during travel. It is repellent to to save you from the bites, sunscreen, ointment or gels. You need to protect from your skin from the sun, especially in the summer. Ice bandages for the traumatic issues, and antihistamine cream to relieve some allergies or reactions for the some itching. How to create home kit? There is very simple steps. At first, as I said, to discuss with your family doctor an opportunity for additional consultation to create the list of medications together or to get some advices. It is not very difficult to get the main advice for your special conditions, for your special family history. So do not be shy or to ask your doctor about it. It is very, very important. To get all a prescription that you need. And actually, we have in Ukraine program Dostupni Liki, available drugs. You can check from your list of medications if you have some chronic disease. For example, it is ischemic heart disease or hypertension. You can get these medications for regular use or for free or very, very cheap. So we have pharmacies in Ukraine which participate in this program, and you can buy here all these medications from the list. So step 2, to choose a safe, dry, suitable place for home kit. Especially when you have children, it is very important to get this place somewhere where child do not can get the medicines from it. To buy a storage box, organizer, bag, or something which you like to organize the medications in your home kit. To check the list of medications for storage condition requirements. The main item which I want to say in this point, it is if you need, if some medications have requirements to be stored in a fridge, do not keep it in the refrigerator's door. The door is very unstable for the temperature, and it is not appropriate place for the medications. You need to choose to get some isolated from food place to storage in a fridge, not indoor. The medications. So step 3, it is to order all useful medical devices which were recommended for you. Equipment kind of tonometer, glucometer, or pulse oximeter. You can buy in a pharmacy, you can buy in the online services. You just can order it online. Online you can check the price to get it more cheaper or to choose the appropriate model for you. To check the price of medications in online services and to order this medication with reservation, you can have some additional discount. So on the screen you see some services of online reservation, for example. And step 4, to put all medicines in the prepared storage place, of course. And it is very important to check the batteries, accumulators, filters for equipment, and test strips, for example, for glucometer, for all medical devices. Do not forget to make a service for these medical devices to have their work in the very best way. And of course, be safe. It is important to be safe during the pandemic. So my summary, it is better to be prepared than not to be prepared. Doctor can save your time and money with individual recommendations for you about home kit. It really works, so just try. Minimum amount and maximum variety of necessary medications. So your doctor will help with necessary, and your money will be earned by the minimum amount of the pharmacies, of the medications. And governmental program and online services can also save your money during creation of your home kit. You can use it, and you can choose the pharmacy with the biggest discount or with the best location to your home, so as you want. So thank you so much for your attention. I left a float contact. You can call or text us anytime. For any questions, I'm open. I'm here to, if you have some questions after my presentation. Thank you for your attention. So I will wait a minute if no question. Again, thank you for your attention, and do not hesitate to call Float hotline.